Hello, and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about games, anime, TV, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who decides to celebrate Cinco de Mayo all the way through Mother's Day. Nick, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, that's traditionally the way you're supposed to do it. People don't really talk about that, but Cinco de Madres Day is yeah, it's a battle that that a lot of that the Mexican army won against the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Um, which, you know, for better or worse, that's the story. So I don't really judge the past. I'm not going to cancel. I'm not going to cancel those people, but that's just how it goes. And I'm just a traditional Mexican, so that's what I do. Speaking of Mexican food, I did have Taco Bell tonight for the first time in a long time, and I chose to have it. I did not. I was not forced into it like I usually am whenever I have Taco Bell, and it was okay. It was not horrible, but it was more expensive than I wanted it to be. How are you,
Yeah,
Joe?
doing all right. I have to agree with you on that. Taco Bell's probably the most expensive out of the fast food joints. Last time I had that was just a year and a half ago. Went to a before I went to a Muse concert, and it was yeah, stupidly pricey. I was better off buying food at the concert. It was, but anyways, yeah, doing all right, doing all right. Just setting up, getting ready
Saying
for yeah. We're
that's
getting
saying a lot. The Taco Bell's higher than a concert food.
oh,
I
it actually like I said, it was surprisingly like stupid expensive. I think we only got a handful of things. It wasn't like we ordered a bunch for everyone. And it was just like, yeah, that was stupid expensive. It was a foolish move. Um, but then again, I don't know. I usually make tacos myself, so but sometimes
yeah.
you just want quick and dirty. But I've never been a hater of Taco Bell, so uh, yeah, I'm not really gonna shame them for
Most
anything.
people love it. I just didn't. I just haven't really cared for the way it tastes in a long time, and I don't know. I think yeah, you can eat cheap there if you literally get like the like beans in a tortilla that they call a burrito. Um, and I'm just like, no, it's not really. If I'm gonna do that, I may as well just get it from the store. Uh, but that's just me.
Yeah, my buddy used to get a party box often, and it's just like that price of that party box just kept on going up and up and up, and he's just to the point where he's just like, yeah, I'm done with Taco Bell, and he ate it quite frequently. So, but yeah, we're doing good on our end. We ended up, getting ready for Mother's Day on our side here. Uh, yeah, got some family coming over, and it should be a good time. But keeping super busy on that front, and yeah, just pretty much this last week has any free time I've had, I've been just playing games for a change. Using up that birthday gift that you got me. Trying to get it beat before my birthday, and then I can be like, "What'd you get me, man?" Uh, but
Yeah.
I'm enjoying. I'm getting my time's worth out of it, so I appreciate it. So thank you, again for like the
Good.
fifth time. Well, but yeah, all right. Well, let's get on to the news. We have a few things here. So what do we got? Let's kick us off.
Yeah, early on this week, it was announced that Remedy's Kestrel multiplayer project was canceled. I didn't realize, I think you did tell me though, but I kind of forgot that they actually had two. I don't know if they're both multiplayer, but they were like ongoing games or like service type games that they were working on, Kestrel being one of them, and Project Condor being the other one, or Condor or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it's yeah, codename Condor. And that one's the games as a service. Or at least that's what I was led to believe. So coming
Something
out
along
in
those lines.
2024, that's gonna be great. I don't know.
Yeah, but they canceled Kestrel. Uh, and they said that they did get a lot of good research and stuff out of it, and they'll be using some stuff that they got from it. I think it's pretty crazy for a studio Remedy size, and with their pedigree and everything, to have two things like that. So it's actually really good news. It's good news to me to have them cancel the weaker of those projects, um, because they just don't have. I just don't think that a studio like that would have resources to burn on kind of two out of the box for them ideas. So I think overall it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I believe Condor is supposed to be a uh, connected to the Control universe, so that's at least not too far out of that. Um, and I don't remember much about Kestrel. It's supposed to be like a World War II, I think, squad base. I don't know. They should. I just remember them showing like four people on a wall, So, yeah, there wasn't. I didn't really know much about it, and I'm not really much of a multiplayer fan. So, I agree with you. The resources are best spent elsewhere. They're remaking Max Payne 1 and 2. They're going to be doing another Control eventually. So it's good to stay focused on what makes them money, and also what makes the fans happy.
Yeah, the article that I saw did say that. Well, I think when they were saying, "Hey, we're canceling Kestrel," they at the same time said that that uh, Control 2, or whatever it's going to be called, but basically the sequel to Control is coming along nicely, and they still believe in that project and all that. So that was kind of good to be able to hear some hey, we're still working on this. We're still going to make it. It's going good. You know, it's just kind of a good thing to hear whenever you want to play that game.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And what else we got then?
So this next story is sort of two parted. Um, Kind of some good news with Helldivers and some bad news with Ghost of Tsushima, but both of these games having to do with the Sony PSN account kerfuffle. So basically, Sony backpedals on Helldivers PSN account requirement on PC. So people were happy about that, and I think that's probably. I mean, that's probably the right move. Like it's you just I don't know. Like yeah, I feel like you can't really if you're gonna put games on PC. I understand why they're like, yeah, just make a PSN account and then we'll get all those PSN accounts. But like you can't ask people to really do that. Um, or maybe put it in the EULA or something and make like a lesser version of a PSN account or something if you really want those numbers. But locking it so you had to create one because I knew a guy at work who was playing Helldivers and he's a complete PC gamer, doesn't have a PlayStation, doesn't want one, doesn't want anything to do with that whole world at all. But him and his friends wanted to play Helldivers and he got it was making me sign up for a PSN account. So I did, but I was like, this is really stupid. And I was like, well, okay. Guys. But yeah, people were not happy about it in general.
Yeah, the problem with it is the fact that the game has been out for so long already, and though it quote unquote is allegedly in the plans, but they just couldn't do it right away. But then you're magically taking the game away from the access from people who already played your game, has been playing it for a while, put a lot of time and effort into it. Also, the biggest problem is the fact that a lot of people, there's like more than just a small handful. There's a lot of countries that don't let you sign up for PSN account. It's just not available in their area due to their laws and government, like issues. So the people who already own the game on Steam then just straight up cannot make a PSN account. Um, and
Well,
then what?
hang
You're
on a
just going to
second.
take that away from them?
So people were able to play the game without a PSN account for a while and make
That's how it
progress.
is now. That's how from the start. You just bought the game on Steam, and you did not need a PSN account. The PSN
And
requirement is a thing
came
that they're tacking
later.
on after the fact. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay. I didn't realize that it was a thing that you could yeah, that's insane to like not to like, block people out with a new requirement that wasn't there when they bought the game. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
And then
like
but yeah,
it's like getting the keys to your car, and then after a month, them telling you now you have to sign up for our dealership thing. It's free of charge, but you have to sign up with us for us to give you permission to start your car again. It's just like that doesn't make sense because you already bought it, you've been using it. There's nothing that you should do to be able to stop you from it. And yeah, so that was the main kerfuffle is because the reasoning. I heard different reasons behind why Sony possibly could do this. One of the reasons being that the idea that they're trying to make a future push to integrate more PlayStation games onto PC ecosystem, and therefore, if you have, you can then potentially have your trophies carry over or have a separate set of trophies, so you can keep that all together. Your friends list, communications, all that stuff. All right, that's okay, but it should still be optional on PC. But a lot of other companies have second back end things. Like I remember Final Fantasy VII when that was first released to, or not first, re-released, a handful of years ago on PC. They made you sign up for a Square account, and then they'd open up in the background as just a different login. Uh, so it sucks, and a lot of people don't like to have extra things that they have to sign into. I mean, a lot of games like Bethesda and everything like that used to make you do that. Origin, all off of Steam, would still make you use their launchers as well. So you'd be opening up the Steam, and it would still be simultaneously opening up the other launcher for you to sign in. Um, it's not it's no one likes it. It's an old thing to do. Now, how did it go now? I forgot how the quote went, but Sony came out and said like we're still learning, and as they backpedaled this, and they're like, you're a company
yeah.
that's been around for how long, and you're using the excuse of you're still learning. That's a load of crap. Uh, like that's just shady, and
Well,
there's no
I mean,
excuse for that.
they're giving with one hand in this case and taking with the other in the case of Ghost of Tsushima. So Ghost of Tsushima is going to come out on PC um, fairly soon, but they're saying they're getting ahead of it this with this game, and they're saying, yeah, you got to have a PSN account in order to play that, and that's what the article you sent me earlier was talking about. And people on Reddit are like, yeah, but like you mentioned a second ago, there's a lot of countries where you straight up cannot have a PSN account. And so you cannot play Ghost of Tsushima on PC in those countries, which kind of begs the question is like, but like if you can't have a PSN account in those countries, can you have a PlayStation 5 or a 4? And can you play, I guess you don't have to have a PSN account to have the if you just buy the system and then play the game straight on the system. I'm just wondering how that works.
Yeah,
But
you would
anyway,
have to have one if you did online services. And so I'm not really sure how that works in those cases. But I just know that yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is coming out on the 16th of May here, so just this next week, and yeah, so a lot of people who are kind of excited about it playing this on PC who don't have a a PS4 or PS5 or just want to play it on their nice PC hardware, they now don't have access to this, and all it's going to do is promote piracy. Like it's going to be on PC. People are going to find ways to rip it and
they're just gonna
distribute it.
rip that out.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's just yeah. But the whole reason why they also part of the movement of how they changed their mind on Helldivers was because the community got together and just essentially carpet bombed the Steam reviews, and it was amazing to see how it tanked. They ended up firing one of the community managers, who was pretty much on our side, at the side of the average person. But I think the head community manager is the one who threw him under the bus, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we're sacrificing this person to the to the minions out there, to all the customers, and the head community manager's like, yeah, they get to keep their spot. So it's kind of shady how that played out. Uh, there's
It's
probably
an
more
old trick.
behind. Yeah, I said there's more behind the scenes to it, but someone has to take the fall for when customers are angry, and unfortunately, it's not Sony who gets to take the fall. Uh, it's it's not a
That's
good situation.
that's in the 48 laws of power. There's one, like one of the laws is to have a scapegoat ready to go, um, whether or not they have anything to do with it. You just say, "Hey, we're gonna kill this guy," and that's exactly what sound. It sounds like that's exactly what Sony did. Um, but they're probably if he was already sort of on the side of the community in that one, then maybe they're like, we can have a scapegoat and we can get rid of someone that's not really a company man at the same time. It's kind
Yeah,
of
but he
a
was the one making the company look good. That's the problem, or trying to make him. But yeah, I don't know. Ghost of
I mean,
Tsushima.
they just like I think that they're adding these games to PC the because the you know streaming games is not working out the way they want. It's not coming along as quickly as they want, and I think they're like, well, we really need to eat away at some of that. Some of we can't just let Microsoft have it all on PC at some point, or Steam and Microsoft. We need to get into that space more in case the streaming never comes along. And so I think that's why they're doing it this way. But it's stupid. Like they need to come in. Sony needs to come in basically like Epic did, but um, but just basically be like, hey, we're here now, and we're gonna give you like, our best games, albeit years after their release, but we're gonna give them to you on PC, and we're gonna make it easy for you to play them. But instead, they're like, no, we're King Sony, and we want everything to be our way, even though we don't even live in this space. We don't know how this space works, obviously. So they're just making themselves look really, really stupid. So in that way, he's right. They are learning, but but like but it's not really learning the way in the traditional sense. It's like learning to be less of an asshole, learning to have less hubris. That's what they're learning right now. They're getting their ass handed to them. And it's going to keep happening for a while.
It's it's they're a company, they're a game company that's been around forever. They're a electronics company that's been around, since what, World War II. It's like at least around the end of World War II. So you're looking at uh the I hate to boil it down to it, but it's just a Japanese company being a Japanese company. In a lot of ways, just how Nintendo seems to be out of touch with a lot of the online features most people are accustomed to. Sony always seems to be a step behind in a lot of things as far as the grasp of how things should work, which would be normal common sense for a lot of people. Or you'd think, I should say. I mean, Microsoft's made mistakes too, but the whole joke of you know Sony's just like, we can dictate the price. When PS3 people get a second job, and then the only reason why PS4 became such a success was because Sony got to go second. Microsoft did their thing, tried innovating, and then uh, they messed up, and so Sony luckily had Plan B, which was the, hey, we can share games with each other, and that's not a problem, and completely raked Microsoft over the coals, and like, but it worked. Uh, I feel that Sony just doesn't understand the idea of what the fans want, and they're trying to get into the PC space, but they want to do it the most Japanese way possible, and they want it like they really just want to dictate and control everything. Uh, but if it was up to them, they would probably have their own PSN launcher. Solely, you buy it from the PSN store, but they know that people want Steam. It's hard to break in to the PC market with your own thing.
Yeah.
A lot of companies don't make it that well, you know.
Well, I mean, Epic realized, hey, we're literally gonna have to give games away to get people to use our launcher. And that's the only time that I use the Epic launcher, but it's been pretty much, but it's been like years, and I've got a pretty good collection of like, B tier games in there. Some stuff is like, hey, that's actually, that's actually a pretty good, that ended up being a pretty good game. Death Stranding I have in there, which I always I always sort of thought about wanting to play, but never really did. Um, but it's definitely one. Whenever I look through the list, I'm like, maybe I should play that before I come back to my senses. But but like I think the thing with like you mentioned like Nintendo and stuff like that, and the difference with Nintendo is for all of Nintendo's faults, they tend to stay in their lane. It's like we're Nintendo and we don't care about all the HD and all the things that make sense to put into a console or a game in the year of our Lord 2024. Um, like a daggum, you know, chat system that makes sense or trophies or anything like that. But we're gonna do what like we're just gonna do what we do. And it's like, okay, Nintendo, that's stupid, but it's literally your space to mess up if you want. And and Sony, you know, as long as they kind of do those kind of things like Nintendo does, which they do plenty of those too, not to the same degree, but there are plenty. It's more forgivable. It's like, well, it's your own backyard. But I mean, you're coming into a space like PC gamers. A lot of game like a lot of gamers are console gamers and PC gamers, but a lot of people are just console gamers and a lot of people are just PC gamers. And the people who are just PC gamers, like, really just don't give a crap about I mean, the whole PC Master Race thing is like a real thing. That's like a meme joke that is based in reality. And there's a whole contingent of those people that just don't care about console stuff and actually think that console filthy casual and like console games are terrible. Um, as a Sony executive, I would have done some research on that community and come in and be like, okay, these people kind of hate us. How do we get them to not hate us? Well, we need to give them kind of what they're used to, at least at first. My goodness. And then you can work in your PSN account stuff if it makes sense later. But to just barge in and make people, well, if you want to play our games, you got to do it our freaking way. It's like, well, it's just dumb. Anyway, um, it's just, you're right. It is just kind of a hubristic, unfortunately, typical Japanese company thing to do. But that's what they're deciding to do.
Well, it's it's one of those things that you know recently uh, I think recently was it at Sony Interactive Entertainment switched from was it Jim Ryan to they have a new CEO now, I believe. So it's part of that, and you think someone from the American side would be like, "Hey, this is how like Americans don't like to have you know uh, like extra accounts." That you think that they'd understand that a lot of these launchers have been frowned upon over the last decade and have been disappearing over the last decade. So you like if you look the only ones who have tried essentially you have like EA, Bethesda, Ubisoft, and it's like a lot of those have been looked at as kind of jokes. Ubisoft still tries, but other than that,
Yeah.
there's not, and like I said, Epic is the only one who had enough money capital to actually make a strong push. And like you said, because they're baiting people into with free, well, between Fortnite, which is keeping them afloat, and the free games coming in. And I only, if it wasn't for Control, it's the main. That was the main game. I've only bought like two games from them. I would be three, and I'd consider buying more games from them. But after they screwed up Alan Wake with my pre-order and everything, just astronomically bad with response times, and I had such a crap time with them that I'm never going to buy anything off of Epic again. I'll take their free stuff, but I'm just never going to go ahead and buy anything from them again from their store because I just
Yeah.
refuse to use Epic Games as my storefront.
I mean, time and again, and they've definitely had their missteps, but time and again over the years, Steam has been very much a like for us by us. for PC gamers, by PC gamers, we're PC gamers, and we know what PC gamers want. Um, and then people are like, hey, this is what I actually do want. And it's easy. So here, take my money. I mean, like the whole there's like 50,000 memes of uh of like of like a wall like I don't know, like a picture of Steam sale popping up and then like a caricature of a wallet going like, no, not again or whatever. Just like every time there's a Steam sale, people would just be like, oh, just like take all my money, just all my savings are just gonna go straight to that. It was like a joke because that's what everybody did was like spend a bunch of money on like those like cheap games, and is only recently that relatively recently that Sony and Microsoft and all those have started to do those 25% off, 75% off sales, which is what Steam, pioneered in my estimation at least. But anyway, it's just one of those things. But yeah,
All right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I this will undoubtedly affect the sales of Ghost of Tsushima. I recommend if anyone can go ahead and play it. You know, I don't think you've gotten a chance to play it yet, but if
it's on
most
the
definitely.
list. But I'd play it on PS5
Yeah,
if I
and
was gonna play it. Yeah.
it's totally like I played it on PS4 back in the day, and I have been pondering playing it on PS5 because they actually came out since I
Better
had
version.
originally played it. They had the new island, they added DLC content, and the game was beautiful, but also just super fun. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I platinumed that game. Uh, and it was before they came out with the multiplayer stuff, and I heard people generally like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious what that new island and that story content's about. Has a really good like it's funny. It's one of those everyone talks about emotional moments in like mid story. I don't without spoiling anything. And so it's like, hey, at least when you get to a certain point, I want you to just get to that point and then get back to me. I really just want
Okay.
to get your take on it. But no, it's uh, I feel bad for Sucker Punch because obviously they want people to play their games, and a lot of people are excited about it on a PC. So fingers crossed, Sony will backpedal on this one too. But I honestly don't think so. I think they're just gonna have to dig their heels in and make this the new status quo. But at least they're letting him know beforehand, opposed to after you already buy the game, because that's just rubbish. There's no excuse to that. No one should pull any sneaky crap like that. So all right. What's the next bit of news you got?
Microsoft is closing several studios. Um, I forget the list of all of them. I think you have that available. But I'm trying to think. I have a couple of them. But
Well,
anyway, so
the
they're
two major ones are Arcane Austin and Tango GameWorks. Those are the two highlights. I think I want to say it was a total of four. The other two were more focused on smaller games slash like the mobile studios from. But I honestly I think I can't remember the name of uh, at least one of them off the top of my head. So, but yes, the big one is essentially uh, Arcane. Arcane Austin. There's two Arcane studios, and Austin was the one that made Prey, um, and which was you mentioned it beforehand is pretty much looked at as a critical darling. Uh, it was one of the last games that really took people by storm in the uh, immersive sim genre. That and Deus Ex were like the last time anyone really talked a lot about an immersive sim. And the most recently they made Arcane Austin made Redfall, which was a bad game. Uh, I mean, I played all of it. I played it to completion. It was a bad game, um, and I played it with a friend. Uh, uh, we, I'm. It sucks to hear because it had such promise, such potential, and a lot of it was because they were originally. It looked like they were originally going to release it as a um, a live game or a service game, and So because of that, the trappings were kind of all over the place. It was most definitely released undercooked, but I don't believe that it necessarily one bad game warrants, um, them to shutter a studio like that. And Prey may have not like made gangbusters, but it had a lot of respect from a lot of people. Um, so I think that's an odd one. But even more strange is the fact that Tango GameWorks of all the companies, like the makers of The Evil Within and Hi-Fi Rush, it's they Hi-Fi Rush, like they just acquired the studio and they released Hi-Fi Rush. That's kind of the timeline of how what happened with Microsoft. Um, Recently, there was a quote um, that was from Xbox saying, straight up didn't make money that they needed to make, uh, and saying that they needed more smaller scale games that win awards. So in response, from Tango GameWorks, uh, I'm gonna. Sorry if I'm gonna butcher this name. Um, so it's Kazuaki Egarashi. They came back and said, um, just not enough question mark. And there was a photo of sent of the awards that it's won. It's won quite a few awards, including a BAFTA, and it has they had a Game Awards, Game Developer Award. It's like there's a handful. Like this won quite a few awards from major outlets, and not including it from like smaller private groups. So that just didn't make any sense that that would be their excuse. Obviously, this person didn't know what they're talking about, and they were just trying to, write it off as to make Microsoft look better. And when you're talking about making money, if you're coming out on an Xbox platform and it's day one on Game Pass, anyone who has Game Pass has access to it. Access to it. What's gonna make you buy the game if you have access to it on Game Pass? That just doesn't make sense. Now, there was maybe not enough new revenue from new Game Pass subscriptions, I guess, but it that's still, if a lot of people already have it, it's not gonna it's harder to get more people to come in, uh, and you're not selling a lot of physical copies because of that. Um, it's mind boggling that that's your excuse that it didn't make money. I mean, it's highly regarded, it's looked at as being awesome, and Microsoft originally shadow dropped it. They literally just said, "Hey, here's this new game, and it's out now, and you're going to go ahead and blame sales when there was zero marketing done or anything, nothing was known about it beforehand." And in fact, that's what made it so neat and so unique was the fact that it was an amazing game, cool premise, great art, and they kept a lid on it. It wasn't leaked beforehand. It wasn't rumored beforehand. It was a complete surprise. So good for them for doing that, and it completely sucks that they got closed down. But you know what? Better for all of them to hopefully go on and make independent games, and or go to a company that will appreciate them, because obviously their talents are going to be wasted.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go over to Sony, where they actually still believe in making games. Uh, yeah, like seems to be a a chronic problem with Microsoft is that they don't really believe in their projects, and they're not willing to they're not willing to allow projects to fail, and they can't identify projects that they tend to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Um, they're a little bit like EA in that way, or I don't know how much. I think EA is a bit better than they used to be, but in the old days, well, I mean they killed BioWare. I guess most recently, just acquiring companies and running them into the ground. At least Microsoft, for better or worse, acquires a company and then immediately shutters it. So um, that's a that's a little bit different, I suppose. mo. But yeah, they're not really very good at spotting what they need to keep going, or looking at like something like Hi-Fi Rush and saying, well, really great concept here. Um, maybe not the sales, not driving sales or subscriptions that we want, but like the bones of the game are great. So what if we made another one? What if we had that same studio make another one and see what they could do with like maybe doubling down a little bit, um, or or something else. But it's I mean the thing that they also need to do is the executives need to keep their mouth shut and just say, "Hey, the game did not sell the way we wanted it to. Uh, there are or at the very least, there are other games in our catalog. There's other stuff that we have that is doing better in our estimation. Studios that are doing better in our estimation. So we're going to go with those. Sorry, that's just the way that it is." Rather than like, oh, you didn't need to win enough awards. Everyone knows they don't care about awards. They only want money. Like awards are nice because they drive more profits. But that's all that they can. That's all they care about. That's all they can care about is profits.
Yeah, I mean it's it is uh once again when you offer a game that just isn't meant for the it's being sold mass market, and you offer a convenient subscription service, to be able to access these things. I'm not sure what they're looking at. It really does sound like their expectations are skewed, and they don't really know what they're looking for. They're just trying to find a scapegoat, and they're trying to trim the fat where they can. Um, Now, the super cynic in me says, well, it's because some higher ups still want their bonuses, uh, and therefore they don't want to. They're willing to shutter other companies and other people and ruin their days and their prospective futures for uh, someone else to just have a higher bonus. Oh, that actually reminds me. One of the other reasons for Sony, hate to backpedal this real quick, but Sony wanting the PSN numbers too is also probably because of they want higher subscription numbers before fiscal year ends. That's also possible. Look into it. Not no proof behind it, but this just also a theory. And as far as Microsoft
That's
goes, I'm
a
sorry.
good theory.
Yeah,
I said that's a good theory. Anytime there is a way for executives to inflate numbers, um, at the expense of um, image of the company and overall perception and the convenience of the fans. If they can throw that away to inflate some numbers, they will do it just about every single time.
yeah, for sure. The a lot of people are also looking at the fact that Microsoft being you know the most or one of the most expensive companies on Earth, they can afford to you know not shutter these companies right away. But once again, there's other reasons. Like as far as Arcane goes, I mean, like I said, they have they have really good staff there as well, and it's just uh, their most recent game unfortunately did get raked over the coals for good reason. But it they still had the foundation in that group to make amazing stuff. So like they still have Arcane Leon. They're the ones who made Deathloop, and they're also going to be making that new Marvel's Blade. But I'm pretty sure they mentioned that that might be canceled as well. But I'm not 100% sure on that. So we'll see. And you know, it's one of those things that uh, there's a track record at this point. It's and it's a really bad track record. The fact that you can almost uh, it's reliable at this point too. Like you just know what's going to happen. It's just how many other people are going to be affected, uh, to what scale. So almost everyone now is and plus it doesn't provide any knowing that there's no stability. everyone in the company, any game developer under Microsoft is going to be like, okay, well, we are most definitely working on a project, and I'm most definitely keeping my eye out and one foot out the door for anything else because at any given time, uh, you know, even if we won a lot of awards, my job could potentially be on the chopping block. So, yeah, it really is not a good place mentally wise for for anyone to work for. So it's not they're not reliable and it's not sustainable. Uh, who wants to work for a company like that? I mean, you have to, and you want to pad out your resume, but there's no security there at all.
Microsoft really used to make games, and I just can't think of anything that I know is from Microsoft that I actually really want to play. I mean, and as far as like the Arcane Austin goes, they just picked a really crappy time to really screw up. Um, and it's like, well, not our fault, blah blah, or this or that, and it's just like, nah. I mean, it sucks, but like
I
you
mean,
cannot.
there's a lot of mismanagement in the whole Redfall situation between being told that they had to make a live service game and then pulling those live service elements out at the last minute because they knew how much people would hate it, especially after um, uh, the Suicide Squad game. All the heat that they were getting from there. So like, ooh, we want to avoid that, but also being forced to push it out, too early. Uh, like I said, the foundation was there, but just the overall execution was lacking. And but when you look at Prey was it's an amazing game. Still looks amazing to this day. Like despite it being 2017, it's a phenomenal looking game. It has really unique mechanics. Uh, you know, it was really cool. I never finished it, but I remember taking way too long to play the early stages of that game because every little thing could potentially be a threat. Any object could have been one of those blob monsters that turn like. And so I played very cautiously in that game in the beginning, uh, and I enjoyed my time with it. But yeah, so they weren't a bad studio. So I just
No.
feel like they got a
Uh,
raw deal, and they got
well, I mean, when you make a game like Prey that's real great and real big deal, critical darling, but it's the kind of game that people don't really play anymore. I mean, you're taking your life in your hands. You, I mean, Prey was a nice game, but as far as I know, it didn't really do a whole lot that was particularly innovative. It was very good. One of those, and one of those that's old school for a reason. People don't really make them anymore. Um, and that kind of game is going to have a really hard time selling. If you do something innovative with one of those, then it kind of becomes something else, and you have a better chance of of making good money. So you do that, you don't really make a lot of money back. Well, Arcane Austin is probably like, well, we need to make money now. So what can we do there? Well, we can make a live service type game and do a little bit of a cash grab, but then, watching other games fail in front of you that are like that, now you have to remove that stuff. It just, you're, a game release it's just insane to me how stupid these studios are with game releases. Like you cannot make a second first impression. You really have to get that game released properly. And I mean, like I just don't know how they run into this problem over and over again. And it's not just that studio, but
well,
like
I was gonna
so
say
many studios.
shareholders is a big answer to a lot of that. A lot of times is because when you have to answer to them, and you have to that's it's no longer a small time indie studio where they can take their time and if they need to hold it back they can hold it back. But you're absolutely right. You can't make a second first impression, and unfortunately, uh, the way the market goes at one point when they start developing and like drawing the bones of the game, and they start to like build it up. And, it's like at the time, live service games seemed to be the hotness, and then in their case, but then by the time it came out, obviously they had to backpedal, they had to switch, and it was too little, too late in a lot of ways. Uh, and but also just the fundamentals of that game, for Redfall, that is, was just lacking. Now I will argue that Prey did a lot of things right, but it was very much a niche game, because of the fact of it was immersive sim horror, and it was, but had a unique story. It had a good way of doing what it was doing. Just unfortunately didn't have that mass appeal, and it was very interesting coming off of the forever hellscape that was Prey 2. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause Prey 1 was also an amazing game, uh, for the 360. And Prey 2 was always supposed to come out, never did, and everything like that. So for it to turn into eventually come into this new game, that became just Prey. I would,
Develop, Prey 2 is in development hell. Okay, I see what you mean.
yeah, very much so. And I think it switched ownership and stuff like that amongst the time. But it's like I said, that just Prey 2017 Prey. Uh, I think it was a good game. Uh, I think it was fun. But unfortunately, just there was uh, enough a little bit higher barrier to entry for most people. So therefore, a lot of people didn't just get around to it. Now, but even so, to I'm just more curious about behind the scenes of how Redfall went wrong. But I also think that Microsoft has the money to keep the staff on hand, uh, to help make other things. But in the end, like I said, they for some reason need to quickly adjust their bottom line. Uh, and obviously their excuses for Tango GameWorks don't fly. Uh, so I don't know. It's just Microsoft needs to get better. Uh, because the only reliable thing about them is that that they're going to close more studios, and it's only May. Like we've closed out, they've let go of so many people now, and it's not even halfway through the year. It's going to be a long year.
I
So
mean, now that they have Activision, um, and Call of Duty, um, and Blizzard and stuff like that, that they have their cash cows. They have their things that are going to just print. I mean, the amount of money that Call of Duty prints is utterly insane. Uh, and maybe my information is a couple years old,
I see what you did
but
there. Cash cow, utterly insane.
it's yeah, no pun intended there. Um, but those things make just insane amounts of money, and so they're like, well, we know that's going to make money, um, and now we can kill the other studios. We don't actually have to take chances on some of these other studios because um, like we have our money coming in, and we're better off killing those studios that were not immediately successful and trying out something with somebody else. Um, whereas if they
Yeah,
didn't have Activision, they'd have to go, well, we have to give these guys another chance because we just don't have anything else to roll the dice on right now. But
the
that's
thing is, like with Tango, at least they came out with a brand new game that, like, it reminded you of back when they used to promote indies a lot, Summer Game Fest and stuff like that, or the I'm sorry, I am forgetting what it's called now, but the 360 had originally uh, really hit the forefront of a lot of those indie games, and small unique things, great. And now maybe they're talking about smaller than Hi-Fi Rush, but since they're closing down so many studios left and right, now that they do have Activision Blizzard, but at the same time, oh, you're a support, even if you're a support studio for Call of Duty, you're not safe either, because there's a chance like uh, you've been reliably supporting Call of Duty, but you're not the main team. Well, do we really need that extra personnel? It's like none of them are safe either, and that's the scary thing. All right, but enough about how much Microsoft is failing.
yeah.
What else do we got? You got one more thing that looks like you put in?
One more little thing, and this is not super old as we're recording this. but there's Android Authority is collating leaks with concerning the new Nintendo Switch specs, their major specs. Um, so apparently this is parts of this has been rumored already, but there's it's rumored to have an 8-inch screen, which the original Switch had a 7-inch screen. So definitely pretty good, and which is fine, playing in handheld to me. But 8-inch screen is going to be pretty, is going to be that much nicer, I think. And then using DLSS to support ray tracing, boosted by 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, and then the oft rumored NVIDIA Tegra 239 um, for, I guess, GPU, and then 256 gigabytes of internal storage. Um, and it's also rumored to be aiming for a March 2025 release date, which I I was thinking last year that it was going to come out this spring, and then I was thinking until just an hour ago that it was going to come out in the fall, and now I'm hearing like a year from now. So I don't know. That's just I really thought that the new Switch would be out sooner than that, but that's Nintendo for you to just take forever to do any of this stuff. But yeah. So some of these, I don't know how much I should say about this because it is just like, well, this is what the new rumors are. How accurate these are, kind of remains to be seen. But that is what we're hearing right now.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be doing DLSS 2, but also it's supposed to be doing be able to support FSR 3. So granted there are newer versions of both, but the hardware is going to be limited. But it should be enough for what the Switch can handle. If they're still looking at the current thing, but just a little bit better. I don't know. I feel like it's a scary thing that if they're coming out with this, but planning it for next year, because you're going to be coming out with, they're never a powerhouse when it comes to, their hardware. But I feel like you're already like a step behind if you're coming out that late with this. Um, you know, they will still make great games. That's the one thing that you can always count is they know how to use their hardware to its full potential. Um, as anything else beyond that, I'm not 100% sure. Uh, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, when the Switch came out in 2017, it was basically like it was basically a PS3, right? Or was it even that good?
I don't think it is, but um, then you're running into a lot of the CPU. It's limited. I mean, you got a couple of those great early Impossible Switch ports from third parties, but and the reason why the Switch was such a great launch, it had such a great first year essentially, or first couple of years, is because you had so many uh, Wii U games that they brought over. So that was the thing is you don't have that luxury this time around. Uh, so you're gonna have to be able to bring over your Switch games, but the big fear is, well, what are you gonna do to really push it forward? You already got a Zelda out, so you're not gonna have that at launch. Probably by that time you can get a new Mario out if it's like you had Wonder that just came out recently, but that was different. So if you try to go 3D, like Odyssey, maybe they'll have something there. Of course, the Metroid is the hope for a lot of fans, but it's I'll believe it when I see it, essentially. Uh,
Yeah, Metroid, Metroid Prime, a new Metroid Prime 4 or whatever. Yeah, that's
it'll be hard to do something like Smash or Mario Kart because you've already expanded those to a great extent. I mean, you can upres them, I guess, and bring them over, but that's not the same as a brand new one. So
they
it's
bring up Mario Kart 8 over to to the Switch 2. That which was a Wii U game, that would be freaking ridiculous. Yeah, they kind of have blown their load as far as, the big releases. They could have another Mario in the line of Odyssey, um, which is probably what they're aiming for. Um, because I don't really know what else is really in their catalog that that they would have ready that is going to move consoles. But the point I was going to try to make earlier was, I mean, like the Switch was like a generation and a half, a generation and a quarter behind as it came out, which it's a different kind of thing, but like when this comes out next year, yeah, this is going to be, you know, pretty close to two generations behind.
And
It seems like depending on what else. I mean, if the screen and it's not going to be an OLED screen because, like you always say, and you're very right, that's what they release 2 years later or 3 years later to sell a whole bunch more. Um, so that's not what we're looking for from Nintendo, really. No one is really is graphically crazy, awesome stuff. Um, but still, it's like, at what point are we just playing board games? I mean, you know, it's like if you're gonna get further and further behind, there's a breaking point. I think there has to be, right?
yeah, I think at this there's if they fall so far behind, they should really double down on the kids thing and make it more indestructible, less, you know, just go ahead and make it full on for your elementary school to middle school kids, something durable enough to throw in a backpack. You know, maybe make a second screen that folds upon it so it doesn't scratch when it's in your bag. Um, you know, call it the Switch squared. But yeah, no, it's honestly, it's gonna just be ridiculous. Because people are complaining about how how they feel that the current Switch is weak. Though a lot of people really do believe that the OLED Switch having a better battery, slightly better battery life, and just the overall clarity of that screen kind of rejuvenated it enough. Um, but honestly, a lot of people didn't go for that upgrade because they already owned one, and why should they? Because there wasn't a real big improvement other than the quality of the screen, but the graphics wise, none of that's really the same. Um,
I
yeah,
mean, I've only,
everyone's
I mean,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, I've played my Switch off of the TV generously 5% of the time, and not even, I don't even think it's been that. I think it's been more like 2%, maybe even 1% of the overall time I've played. My Switch has been off, has actually been handheld. And I mean, so it's like, so I was looking at the OLED Switch and the nice white, crystal clear white of it, of the styling of it, and I was like, I kind of want that. And then I thought about how much I would actually use that OLED, that 8-inch whatever OLED screen, and then I realized I have an OLED TV, so whenever I play it docked, I've already got an OLED screen that's not 8 inches, it's 65 inches. So I was just like, no. And I have a Switch controller, you know, which I don't mind. I think it's good. Uh, and I think it's, at least at the very least, it's better than holding the Switch in your hand. So after I thought about those things, I was like, I want to buy. I wouldn't have spent $300 for something that I'm really not going to get much extra use out of. So yeah, that's kind of where that is. Um, but what I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're going
It's
to
a
keep making
dangerous
great
landscape
games.
because we got
Yeah.
Microsoft who's really wanting to push into a handheld market. Lots of rumors going around there. Uh, and no, seeing that they're pushing more of a service thing and less of a console push. I mean, granted, they're still going to come out with new consoles, but if they come out with a new handheld, and of course, Microsoft wants a piece of that Steam Deck, pie. I mean, you got companies like a lot of other third-party companies, Lenovo and Asus and stuff like that. They all have their handhelds. Um, so yeah, I think with Steam Deck, that's the new benchmark that handhelds need to be kind of held up to. Granted, Nintendo's a different beast because you know despite them being underpowered, they really know how to creatively go around everything and artistically make things look great. So there's that, but they kind of have to cut themselves off of a lot of third party AAA games then, and that's the biggest problem is because when the next generation of stuff comes up, you're gonna have a you're gonna have this really big disparity between consoles, like cross consoles, kind of like you had back in the day when you had a game come out for like the Super Nintendo, and the same game come out for the Nintendo or something like that. Very different games, obviously, same title, roughly same story beats, but very different play. Um, and that's kind of what you'd end up having is if you came out with I don't know, The Witcher 4. The Witcher 3 like played surprisingly okay on the Switch after they did their stuff. I mean, not the best way to play it, but most definitely competent. Uh, you're not going to be able to do that with The Witcher 4. Just whenever that comes out on the next gen Microsoft and Sony hardware, you're there's no way that can play on a PS or on the Switch 2 if it's according to these specs, not without dumbing it down a lot. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. It's I mean, I'm sure they're gonna make good games, but it is like some point, at some point, the technology just has to be there.
All right. Well, let's get on to what we've been playing, which for me has only been the same thing as last week. Stellar Blade, just nothing but Stellar Blade in my free time. Yourself?
Yeah, Stellar Blade, pretty much, is all I've been able to do, which is good. I mean, it's a good game. Um, definitely not really any complaints, or at least fewer than I had before. I do think the platforming um, is not always great. I think they don't make you do too much of it. I think some of the most of it that you had to do was in what was on IDOS 7. Um, at least it felt that way to me. Um, and so I haven't had to do as much recently. So it's not bothered me as much. But I think that um, that the platforming, like she is not like Eve is not really um the walk control is not precise enough for good platforming. Like if I want to turn around, I often end up running the other way or at least walking quickly. Um I feel like it's really hard to get that walk, that slow walk um before the run if you want it. And I don't know. I mean, I guess they probably had to opt for that because it's an action game. So they had to be like, well, we need people to be able to run as fast as possible, as accelerate as fast as possible, or however you want to word that. But I just there's so many times where I have fallen off stuff or come very close to falling off stuff or fallen down to the next level, and it was like, well, that's at least I'm not dead, but that's annoying. Or just I just feeling like the thing is not doing what I want it to do, what I'm telling it to do. But that's that's like, but anyway, so that's how I feel about the platforming. How have you felt about it?
I have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to running. I don't think there's an auto run function. Um, it, there's a fast ish, kind of a fast walk, but not really. It's thumbstick down to sprint, or you have to press and permanently hold circle to continuously run. But there's no like
When
yeah you
you when you barely press that stick forward about like 10 degrees, she will walk. The walk is too fast.
I think
Sometimes when
she's too
you're
slow. I mean, as far as platforming goes, though, like I know Ido 7, there's the beginning portion has a lot of a lot of platforming, but it's just mostly ledge grabs. and then there was some swinging. But I had that part I had no problem with. When you're in the so you just finished the wasteland, the second part.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to the end of it. I've got almost everything. I have some minor missions, but I some completed the major missions, and I think I've seen every area in the wasteland.
All right. There's so you but you haven't beaten the boss in that area.
I've beaten several bosses in the wasteland.
Um, you didn't go to the main objective, the eggshell looking
Yeah,
building.
I beat that. I beat that. Yeah,
Okay, so then after that, did you get the you got the double jump?
yeah.
All right. So yeah, once you get the double jump, you can access everything in the wasteland, and I've thoroughly checked out that whole space. I've collected every piece of data there, and there isn't a whole lot like the worst part of platforming that I feel that in that area. Uh, there's some drones that you have to jump on from drone to drone, and it's a matter of me not like over jumping. Like I might hit double jump instead of just a single jump, and because I generally like to try to go. I don't like the idea of hitting the ledge because she'll auto grab, but I just never feel confident in that enough to rely on it. Um, so generally, I'll do that. There's only a few ledges or a few things where you swing from one thing to the other where you have to do a double jump and dash. There are some later puzzles in the wasteland, like to the south, that you have to go like on a wall, wrap around, jump, do a couple things, like swing from a couple things, and then climb on some more stuff. And that is a little tricky, but I think that's meant to be to that extent. It's not like I wasn't overly frustrated. I was more frustrated with me trying to do it without the double jump, and that was the biggest part for me. Uh, yeah,
So I mean, like it's like the like 10 degrees forward to make her walk and not run, but not also not sprint. So there's walk, there's run, and there's sprint. Um, and making her, and then even after that, there's like the ultra fast sprint or the ultra
when you're
sprint.
sprinting for a while in the wasteland without engaging, then you I actually really like that function. Because it really
It's a
helps
good
with
idea.
yeah.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. My only complaint with that is that it doesn't kick in until I'm literally two steps from where I'm trying to go. I know that's not actually the way it works, but that's the way it feels. There's so many times where I'm like, well, I need to go over there, and I'm literally like two steps from getting there when I feel it kick in, and then I stop, and I'm just like, well, that's sort of irritating, but that's just the I guess it that ultra run is more for cleaning up stuff later when you're just trying to get through and go get what your
Yeah.
mission is. But
Also, it's
like,
a good indicator for when you're in a combat and you don't see it because all of a sudden she pulls out, you slow down and she pulls out her sword, and you're like, oh, someone has me targeted or I'm aggroed somebody. So, yeah.
that's true. That's true too. Um, but there's been a lot of times, yeah, like that tower with the robots. I didn't have too much trouble with it, but there was a point when I jumped toward a rope and and like missed it, and it was just like it was like I missed it and then fell to my death. And I was like, I don't really think that I should have missed that. Um, I jumped at it and like her arm went like through the rope, but it did not grab. And I was like, that's kind of bullshit. Um, there's also a part down in the forbidden zone where you have to get on a rope and then go down to the like into the boss pit essentially. Sorry, spoilers. But but I figured out from that 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 one you can jump to get it, but you're not supposed to. What you're supposed to do is just run off of the ledge and then she'll grab it more assuredly. And I was like, okay. So like things like that need to be cleaned up. It would be fine if it was like, okay, that's a hard rope to grab if it was part of a part of the challenge of it. But whenever I'm going to leave an area and I jump and the game knows I'm trying to jump to that rope to leave, not to do anything like special. It needs to go like at that point the game needs to go, "Oh, you're just trying to leave. We're going to help you do that. We're going to help you have fun." So here, it grabs the rope for you and you swing down because it's like I'm not like there's no challenge here. There's not supposed to be any challenge here. I'm just trying to get out of here. Things like that need to be cleaned up, which I think they probably could be in a patch. Um, but like but like the larger problem is like if you're maneuvering around and trying to get yourself to be just right on a platform, uh, and you need to turn, she snaps too quickly on tiny areas. Um, and it's just irritating to me. Besides that, which is only like 5 or 10% of the game, um, that's really like my major complaint. But besides that, um, everything else has been great. You know, the story's been all right. It's gotten a little bit the plot's thickened up slightly. I know I'm not near as far as you, so I'm sure it does even more. But I'm like reading some of the backstory, and I'm like, okay, some of this stuff is getting kind of weird. I'm picking up some of the vibes. You pointed out some other interesting comparisons to Near, um, which
Yeah, sister's junk
my
in the story. Like I don't know why I didn't catch it right away, but I was just like the second time, I sat down for a long play, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's the brothers' junk shop in near Replicant. Totally the same thing. You know, younger siblings there to watch the while the other sibling, older sibling is like MIA or something like that. But I'm like, all right, that makes sense. Man, what was it? Is it? I'm trying to remember her name now, but the shop owner, I absolutely hate her character. Her voice, the way she speaks, her cadence, it just drives me up the wall. Everyone
Cave.
has, yeah, um, because
Yeah.
the singer in the other missions, she also has a name that starts with a K, and that's why. And then also her the sister's junk shop, the elder sister, also starts with a K. I'm like, man, you guys do a little bit better picking names. Um, but there's the stuff you can read. There's a lot of story to that. I'm I'm 2 spots beyond you, so I would say area 4 is the best way for me to put it,
Yeah.
without spoiling it for you. Um, and I think I had this. I'm curious when you're going to figure out the story because I'm pretty confident that I have the major beats already laid out in front of me. But then again, I've also collected everything in the first 3 sections. I've spent way more time than I probably should, and I'm in my way of towards the tail end of collecting everything by 3, or I mean area 4. Um, I've There's a little mini game thing you can do. Well, they showed it in the ad, so never mind. But in the original trailer, but fishing. Um, so I've currently in my way of that. I finished that earlier today. Yeah, I've really been getting a lot out of this game. The I think like I said, for the most part, I wish you can. Yeah, I agree. I wish I could travel faster, running faster sooner. Um, the I still feel the skills you get are very generous. They just seem to give, like they are not very difficult to. It's like the same amount of XP every time you get a skill point. I don't feel like they've really increased the amount of skill point or like your level cap, as it were. It's not like a traditional RPG. It's like how many ever points you need. I think it's consistently that because I feel like I'm getting point skills all the time. Complete all side missions if you're not getting enough. Do the main story missions. Um,
Yeah, I have more
yeah.
SP that I know what to do with. I mean, I'm sure you ran into that if you did everything. Like, you have tons and tons of SP. I'm like, I had like 14 SP at one point, recently, and I was like, well, I guess I just put it. I don't even feel like I need these things. I'm doing fine without all these extra skills. Um, I guess I'll put it here, here, and here, and just kind of have embarrassment of riches in that regard.
I'm a handful of skills away from. I have like probably like 6 skills left before I max out the entire skill tree. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I've collected, uh, I've been collecting everything I come across, and the it has a good like the side missions are fun enough, and there's, like I said, there's enough conspiracy or other stuff behind it. Um, I don't find the platforming too difficult. I do find some of the side missions to be a little tedious, but then you're literally getting from a billboard. I wish you would stop looking at a billboard in Zion and commenting on how it's an arcane system or it's a billboard. Like, just shut up. Like, the first couple times you say it, that's fine. You don't have to keep on repeating the same bit of dialogue. It's just a billboard. Just pop up. I don't know. There, for some reason, it's like that's just annoying. It's just like, all right, yeah. Go, just skip this little bit of dialogue. Let me click on it. Though I do like the fact that when you do a side quest, it'll when the moment you finish, you can map. It'll give you the option of mapping back to the quest giver, and I'll skip that sometimes, knock out a few side quests out in the world, and then at the tail end go back and then start cashing them all out. And that, at least it saves you the hassle of running back. Be careful though, especially if you're new to a certain area. Explore, and you want to explore that area first, because um, I've actively said, hey, I don't want to, I want to stay. I don't want to be mapped back because I just got to the area and I didn't think about it. I didn't look around. I just went straight to the objective, and then, like, all right, quest complete. And then I said no, and I looked, and I'm like, oh, there's a couple chests, or there's some items for me to find, and I'm glad I didn't map back right away. Um, but then
Yeah.
that meant I had to run to a phone booth or run to a camp and then map and map again. So
But yeah, you do want to look around every area because you don't want to necessarily have to double back onto stuff that you've already been just to pick up a couple treasure chests or whatever. But yeah, it's a good game. Um Comparison with like with what I expected it to be, I think it might I think it might actually be a little bit better than I expected it to be. I think it's like just from just pure gameplay and and all that stuff. I think I was expecting a 7, and I think it's a little higher than a 7, somewhere like a 7.5 or so. Maybe it is pretty satisfying to play when you do get up against a hard boss, and you do figure out how to parry and dodge properly, and get like a good string of those together, and then like uh and actually like overcome that challenge. It's pretty satisfying. So it's creeping up a little bit higher for me, I'd say.
you and I play this game very differently. I was telling you about this before because I looked at our PlayStation, compared our PlayStation trophies, and they show you the percentages if you're not, like, completed the trophy yet. And it's funny because I had already gotten the trophy for killing like X amount of enemies, and you were like at 40 something percent, but you at that time you had already parried like 300 enemies, and I was like not even 100 at the time. You had dodged like I think 200, and I had not even like half that. I was just like, man,
So
uh,
are you just blocking, or are you not, like are you blocking, or you're like, I know he's gonna swing, I'm not gonna try to parry, I'm just gonna early block.
so I will dodge more than I block. Because I just like parrying. I'm not a parry fan in any type of game, whether it be like Spider-Man or anything. I dislike the idea of parrying. The In a
Well, you
game,
early dodge then, because if you're not perfect dodging, then you got to be early dodging, right?
well, I actually just play more aggressively. So I found like a lot of the early enemies, certain types, if you bum rush them, you can actually combo hit them, like heavy hit them hard enough and fast enough to the point where, like, um, the robots with the guns on their head, like their head is the turret. If you just constantly, I go up to them and just constantly start attacking, what will happen is they before they let off their major attack, you can interrupt their yellow,
Yeah.
their
I'll
yellow
usually
attack.
do like I'll usually like a square, square, triangle, triangle, and they're pretty much dead. Yeah.
Yeah, and then other enemies as well. That for most of them, the little scorpion dudes. You can take them out real quick. So a lot of them, if you know their timing, certain ones. I forget which one now, but there was one that likes to. Oh, the in Idol 7, the statues. If you come across, if you bum rush them, you can kill them. I usually kill them right as they glow blue, so they'll glow blue, about ready to do that dodge attack, and between that, them activating and actually hitting me, so before my icon, my sword turns blue, I will have them killed. So, like I was able to get that timing well enough. So I was just bum rushing them, and a lot of them. Like one thing I did have that you didn't have is I had the executioner's trophy real early, because I had the backstab. I think assault is when they come up from above, and I forgot what the other one is, when you stab them in the back. But yeah, I do that a lot too. Uh, so I would end up, if I can. The nice thing about stabbing someone in the back is if you have some smaller minions, like the little scorpion dudes, and you have the hedgehog, I think it's called, the big burly guys, uh, you can run past the little scorpion dudes. They'll start chasing you, and that doesn't matter because you can still run up on the hedgehog and just stab him in the back, kill him in one hit. And then since I have the chain attack, I just have to, like, so long as I'm looking at my enemy, I can hit triangle, and then he'll dash slash one hit kill the next enemy, and then I just have to fight the last one like normally or anything like that. So there's, and then I'll early dodge. Or I'll just use, generally based on where the camera is, I'll just dodge out of the way, face them, and attack them head on. So that's like um, what I've been able to. I mean, one of the easiest ones to parry, uh, if you wanted to get like a racking parry score, is the the guardian of the wasteland. Um, I can't remember her name now, but yeah, so like she does literally like the 4 hit or she does a 2 hit combo, then a 4 hit combo, I believe. And that's her set move, and then she ends up just recharging her shield every time. I'm
The
like,
land
oh
of Arctic.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm
Yep.
like, she is
Yeah.
super easy. If I wanted to sit there, I'm like, I should just sit here and grind this spot is what I should do. But I just, instead I just took her out. Um, Actually, I died on her like 2 or 3 times. First time just because I didn't understand. I started figuring it out, and I think what happened was, um, I was mistiming my parries. I think it was, and so I just said forget it, and I jumped back and I just blew her away with my guns. Like I just switched firearms, and I'm just like, and I'm just gonna stun lock you for the most part. I'm like, that was a little easier than expected. The bosses are generally, they're super fun, and they're unique designs. I don't really have much problem with them, but I do end up using a WP pump, like one of my, your extra lives, as it were. Uh, and the
Yeah.
cost of death in this game is not too bad, which I really like. It's like you just respond. They're pretty generous about the auto saves, especially um, if you're in like the dungeon areas. But if you're out in the wild, I mean, you just go back to the last, like, usually you find a camp easy enough, so you just respawn in there, and that's not too bad. And it's not like it's penalizing you money or anything like that. You just lose any items that you spent, for the most part, and the money's super generous in this game too. I've been restocking a lot of my ammo. That's always trying to top myself off. Never really have to worry about money itself. The items, um, that are dropped, the materials, those you have to worry about a little bit more and do a little juggling. But I got the trophy for upgrading enough X amount of exo spines. I've uh, pretty much bought everything from uh, Digger. I bought everything from Digger at this point. Yeah, and I've bought everything from everyone else. So it's a good game. I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and I would, if I was going to be so busy this week, I would probably say with confidence I could probably beat it this by the next time we talk, but it'll probably be 2 weeks at the rate, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I noticed one other thing. Uh, so Lily has a meter that pops up in the top of your screen sometimes when you collect certain data, and it
Yeah.
doesn't. So by the time I hit the fourth area, uh, because I found all the books and everything. Not every book, but certain things trigger her meter to go up. Um, but I did all the side quests and I collected all the stuff in the first 3 zones. Um, so by the time I entered the last zone, I one of the first things you do or something that I had already 100%ed it. So, um,
Okay.
I'm not
I
sure
was
what it.
wondering.
Yeah,
I was wondering what that's about. I mean, I don't want you to tell me anything, but I was like, okay, there's something going on there, and I'm interested to see what it is.
I
But I
don't
didn't
know
know you
yet.
could do it that
Um,
quickly. So
y- yeah, well, that's the thing is I was noticing it grew. I'm like, am I not supposed to be doing it this soon? But I feel like all their affection meters, or like I'm assuming it's an affection meter or something, because all the meters go up way too dang quick. All the shops, like all the shops, like you just have to buy the first handful of things, like just not that much money spent, and all of a sudden, boom, you have three levels of affection. They sell, and that's it. Um, but yeah, I've unlocked. I'm a handful of outfits away from finishing that, and a handful of cans. I think I have. Oh shoot, I have 35 cans or something like that. So, um, and those are nice because as you collect them, they give you extra like grenades, capacity, or I think I just got the extra W pump, so that means I can die twice in a boss battle, and that's even more forgiving. So my only one of the janky parts though I think is combat. In combat, that is to switch firearms and then firearm ammo, or switching grenades or health. Like the press and hold function is takes kind of a long time, and then especially if you're doing firearm ammo, you have to pull the hold left L2, and then hold down, and then switch to a different ammo type. So that is just a little clunky, and I wish there was a quicker way to get to it because sometimes when you're sitting there waiting, you're leaving yourself open for attack.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I'm gonna keep playing it. It's I mean, obviously, but it's a good game, and I think I'm gonna have a lot more to say on it. You know, as we both get closer to finishing it. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, another near reference was the fact that the hairstyle. I'm pretty sure the last hairstyle on that list was Kaene's from Near Replicant as well because it has a metal flower. It has, I'm pretty sure, the same kind of braid. I'm like, all right, that seems pretty normal. Uh, and I just found it funny that like they really wear their heart on their sleeve for that game.
No, yeah, like now I understand why Yoko Taro made the comments he did specifically because he probably played it or heard somebody talk about it and then played it or whatever. And he was like, these guys freaking really like really like Nier because they're throwing in all kinds of homages and stuff to it. And even like the like ease of play and like where they don't punish you too much for failure and stuff like that. That is kind of a Nier or at least a Yoko Taro type thing where it's just sort of like I don't really care. Um, you know, just I just hope you have fun. That's sort of Yoko Taro's, you know, general philosophy on game design. I think he's not really there to try to make you work. He just wants you to experience, the story and what he like had you experience and or what he has for you. And these guys seem to be emulating that as well.
Doesn't want to make you work until he makes you collect every damn weapon and upgrade it all to get the whatever ending you need. Piece of garbage. No, it's like, uh, as far as expect,
You asked for whenever he's like, you want to do something stupid?
I
Okay.
didn't ask for
Well,
it.
you
It's what
can just
he, but it's there, so I had to do it. Um, it's a
no.
sickness.
You asked
But
it's like,
the
oh,
as far
you
as
want to waste your time playing a video game? Well, here we can waste some time playing video games.
expectations, though, you mentioned before, I actually thought it was going to be more platinum, less Dark Souls kind of. I expected it to be a faster form of action, and a little more stylized. It's a little slower. It's still very stylish and everything, but I was surprised in how more Dark Souls esque it is. Because where I'm at now, there's a couple enemy types that can just wreck your day if you just happen to get in a bad chain or a bad thing. Like even where you are in the wasteland, the robots with the gun heads, like they do a barrage attack that is a quick rapid shot of like 5 shots right away. So if you happen to get hit by that first one, you're kind of stun locked until maybe you can dodge out of the last one, or at least I haven't been able to unstun lock myself from that first hit. So they take off a chunk, and then later on there's certain enemies that will do um, a bit of health damage, and so or if you're not ready for it, uh, there's a there's this one creature that just has taken me out surprisingly just a couple times, but it was just like, yeah, I really screwed that up, and my timing was off. Instead, I should just be more generous of using my burst skill or anything like that. So, but yeah, the
Yeah,
game is really, I really do like it a lot. I'd probably agree with you on your rating too. Like a 7.5 sounds right. For the way, I mean,
I mean, I was just sure that they were putting all their eggs in the graphics basket, in the design basket, and that it was just going to be like whenever I first saw trailers and pictures of it, I was like, well, that's going to be a really pretty game that plays terribly. Um, and then we saw that trailer back in February, and I was like, okay, this game is going to be not horrible, and probably pretty all right. And now playing it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a little bit more, probably a little more than all right, I would say. But yeah,
yeah, for sure. I'm having a good time with it, and uh, the amount of outfits is hilarious. They do a good job of making some just overall solid choices, and they have a good spoof one too. Um, I kind of wish that you had more outfits for your sidekicks. I know you don't get to see them that often, but because of the DLC, we at least got like the drone. We had an extra one for the drone. I haven't come across anything else for the drone yet. Um, there isn't a lot that I've come across for the other two, Adam and Lily. So I kind of wish you were able to accessorize them a little bit more as well. But no, I'm really glad that I got a chance to. I'm playing this one right now, and like I said, personally, at the rate I'm going, and we'll see how they stick the landing. But I think personally, I'll look at this more of it like an 8. Um,
yeah, I'm
but
hoping it'll do
yeah,
too.
I'm hoping so too. But like I said, I want to next time we talk, if hopefully if you get by the time you get to the fourth area, I think you'll. I'm curious what you think how the story will play out, and so I want to hear your thoughts on that. And by that time, it'll be a little bit more okay to be spoiler-ish because we've been really vague up until this point. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, cool. Um, well, I think we're gonna cut it short there because we've already running a little longer than expected. Um, and we'll talk about what we've been watching next time and just do a little extended length on that. Um,
That sounds that
yeah.
sounds great.
All right. Well, this has been another Dead Pixel, episode 75. And Nick, what words of wisdom do you have for the folks out there?
Um, Learn to parry early and often because it'll help you with boss fights.
All right.
That's just a life thing.
And a quick reminder to everyone out there, give your mother a call and wish them happy Mother's Day. Even if you don't get along with them, maybe they'll at least appreciate it a little bit more. And, hopefully that'll help you out. But yes,
Yeah.
until next time, y'all, take it easy.
Bye.